Welcome to day 4 of the 2021 Vermont Organics Recycling Summit, organized by the Composting Association of Vermont in partnership with Vermont Agency of Natural Resources. This year's summit is being held during International Compost Awareness Week, the largest and most comprehensive education initiative of the compost industry. I'm Natasha Duarte, Director of the Composting Association of Vermont. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of our sponsors for this virtual summit. These include Community Bank, Eco Products, and Vermont Natural Ag Products, Addison County Solid Waste Management District, AgriLab Technologies, Inc., EcoPixel, Nature Cycle, the Vermont Produce Program from the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, and the Eco-AmeriCorps program from the Department of Environmental Conservation. That I'm going to invite Anne Bajour, who is going to talk about our featured program for this session.
Hi, my name's Anne Bajour. I work for the Solid Waste Program of Vermont's Department of Environmental Conservation. And I just wanted to let you know about our Let's Scrap Food Waste campaign. It's an effort to reduce the amount of edible food that's wasted and increase the amount of food scraps that are diverted from the landfill through composting. And we have a great website. It's scrapfoodwaste.org with lots of tips that can help you reduce your food waste. And that's things like simply eating everything you buy. So eating all your leftovers, not stuffing your fridge, keeping it what I call tastefully empty. So you see what's there and stuff doesn't linger in the back and grow mold. And also just learning the best way to store foods that you have so that they last longer. Things like storing herbs like flowers in a glass with some water in it and putting a little plastic bag over the top to create a little microcosm in there, and then they'll last much longer. So take a look, scrapfoodwaste.org, and I hope you enjoy your workshop.
So before we move into today's program, I do want to just announce a new initiative of the Composting Association of Vermont that we are launching this week with multiple partners. And it's a multi-generational statewide art challenge called Changing Lives Through Compost One Scrap at a Time. And so we're inviting all kinds of people to create artwork from food scrap and yard waste. And here are some examples. There's a calendar that we did in 2021, some art that was photographed and sent to us by a 4-year-old, some posters that UVM students did for International Compost Awareness Week last year. And then all of the submissions will be featured on our website, and some will be selected for the 2022 calendar. So just a reminder of where we are in the program. We're at this Organics Diversion Options for Chittenden County here at 1 p.m. At 3, we'll have the U.S. Composting Council zoning session, the Compost Entrepreneurs Challenge. And also at 3 is our virtual tour with Rich Earth Institute. So we hope folks will be able to come back and join us for these other sessions. And with that, Rhonda Mace is the School Outreach Coordinator for Chittenden County Solid Waste District. Rhonda has always found great peace in nature, so teaching kiddos, big and small, all about reducing, reusing, and recycling as an educator for CSWD is a perfect fit. When she's not teaching, Recycle Rhonda loves to get her hands dirty in the garden and then cook up a big feast using the veggies she grows. She's also known for being a worm whisperer. She has been composting with worms for nearly a decade and can't say enough about worm power. Dirty hands are happy hands is her mantra. So take it away, Rhonda.
Hi, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining in on this sunny day. I am Rhonda Mace. I do all the school outreach and also known as Recycle Rhonda in pretty much all the realms here in Chittenden County. So today you have the pleasure of being with me, and Michelle Morris is the Director of Outreach and Communications, is also here too to answer any questions. So as Natasha said, please throw your questions and comments, especially if they're like Rhonda Mace is awesome. You can throw that into the chat box, and then we'll get to the questions at some point. I don't mind being interrupted. So without further ado, let's roll in. So we're just going to cover a couple of topics in no particular order, but kind of go over what is required based on the Act 148 law, or the Universal Recycling and Composting Law. We go over the recovery hierarchy for food, on-site, off-site options for managing food scraps. Where do those organics go, depending on which options you're choosing? And then we're going to highlight some of the food scrap haulers here in Chittenden County. And with that said, we did send out a survey to all of the food scrap haulers, licensed food scrap haulers anyway, in Chittenden County. And we got several responses. So those responses are the ones that are going to be highlighted. So I'm not leaving anybody out intentionally, but I can only highlight those that answer the questions. All right. So who is Chittenden Solid Waste District, or CSWD? Because we are Vermonters and we are very autonomous, managing solid waste in our state takes on a couple of different ways of going about it. So we are a solid waste district, meaning we're a public municipality. We work much like a school district works. We are overseen by 18 commissioners, and then hopefully 18 alternate commissioners, but it doesn't always pan out that way. A board of commissioners, I should say, that represent there are 18 member towns. Although we can create our own laws for our district, which happens to be all of Chittenden County, so we can do that. We can't just be out there making laws willy-nilly, because we have to bring those changes to our board, and often the board will come to us and say, "Hey, our people in our town would like to see more of this or less of that or whatever." So it is a working relationship with all of our towns. But you might know us as the people at the facilities when you come and visit us. And I know a lot of you guys are not like in Chittenden County. But this is specific to our county or to Chittenden Solid Waste District. It may look wicked different in your own town or own community. All right, so we have, I think 11 facilities throughout the county. They vary in what we accept, or what their purpose is. So we have 7 drop-off centers throughout the county, transfer stations, often synonymous names. We have our environmental depot that handles all of our hazardous waste. It's our year-round facility. And then we also have a rover that goes out. Well, it hasn't been out on the road for a while, but I think we're going to be doing it this year at the end of the summer. We have the materials recovery facilities. So CSWD, we own the facility itself, and we have a partnership with Casella, who actually runs the facility for us. And then finally, we have Green Compost that's going through name changes. So you'll hear me call it the Organics Diversion Facility, or Green Compost, ODF, GMC. They're all the same. I'm just trying to get used to the new name, so bear with me. That was the wrong notes, but that's okay. So here is a picture. So that we manage a lot of different things in our county. We still are throwing a lot of things in the trash that do not belong there, as you can see from this pie chart. So 53%, this is 2019 data, but 53% of what people in Chittenden County, whether they live, work, or play here, are tossing into the trash is actual trash. And then the rest of it could be recycled in one way, shape, or form. The recoverable C and D, that's just construction and demolition stuff that could actually be recycled in one way, shape, or form, not necessarily at our facilities, but at facilities that are available in our county. Today, oh wait, let me get out my fancy laser pointer. Today, we're going to be focusing on this piece of the pie. So as you can see, and this is just Chittenden County data. So you can see that we are still throwing over 61 million pounds of organics. And organics are food scraps, paper towels, napkins, and some yard trimmings is basically the organics category here. But it's over 61 million pounds are still heading to the landfill, even in 2019. With that said, though, we hope whoop, 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 with the Vermont's Universal Recycling and Composting Law, we will see a reduction in the amount of organics going to the landfill. This was signed into law in 2012. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about it over the week, so I'm just going to kind of keep it brief and focus on the phased-in ban on landfilling the food waste. And so that started in 2014 with large generators. And so we saw a decrease over the years of the food in the trash, but it went into effect for everyone July of last year. With that said, then we got smacked with the pandemic. So that kind of is going to throw everything off. And I did get some data from 2020, our trash sort that we did. And it looks like there's that those numbers went up from like 24% to 36% of the trash was food. But I think that has to do, or we think that has a lot to do with COVID-19 and people being stuck in their houses and things being shut down and no place to take their stuff. So we're going to hope that this year, fingers crossed, is looking a lot better because of this. You'll also hear me refer to the Universal Recycling and Composting Law as Act 148. So just giving you a heads up on that. All right, so that out of the way, let's get into the 3 R's for organics. The reduce, the reuse, and the recycling part of organics or the food. First, reducing, and as Anne said earlier, that's, our number one goal is to stop wasting so much food and try to save money as well by not wasting as much food. There's a lot of resources and love that go into growing our food. So hopefully we can work on that. Then there is reuse, so food for the people, basically. And it's interesting data that the Vermont Food Bank, which is the statewide food bank, saw a 60% increase in food donations 1 year after Act 148 was implemented. So that is pretty extraordinary and pretty exciting, because 1 in 4 people in Vermont struggle with food security. And working in the schools, I see it a lot, and so this makes me happy that there's more food. And during the times of this pandemic, people are they're needing a little more assistance, and so it's awesome that the Act 148 actually helped increase donations. And then we got recycling, whether that's through feeding animals and then composting the animal, what's left over, or just composting in general, anaerobic digestion, and then the energy recovery part. So we're going to jump into the food recovery or food for the people. Here in Chittenden County, we got an organization called Feeding Chittenden, and they have a lot of different awesome programs that help feed our people. I'd like to focus on, there you are, the food rescue here. So I find it pretty extraordinary that just in our county, they are saving over 8,000 meals every single month. And I know they have a very robust food rescue volunteers that go around to the different grocery stores, as well as other places too, but I see them at Hannaford a lot, actually. Early in the morning, 5 a.m., filling up pickup trucks full of food that they are rescuing and then able to feed the communities. So yay for Feeding Chittenden. Keep up the good work out there. They serve about over 12,000 people, so they've got a big job, and they do an amazing, amazing work. So let's move on to the Chittenden County choices for managing food scraps here. It basically falls into 2 camps. You've got your on-site management, basically if you're composting or keeping it in your neck of the woods, or you've got your off-site, meaning somebody else is doing the legwork for you. So before we dive deep into the different options here in Chittenden County, I do want to touch base on where do they go, depending on what you're choosing. And you may choose a couple of different options. I know being an outreacher, I talk to a lot of different people that manage their food scraps in many different ways, often 3 or 4 different ways. So if you're managing your food on site or your organics on site, then basically most of it's going to stay right where they're generated, which is pretty awesome. And that's whether you're composting it or digesting it, it's going to stay right there. Unless you're using, say, like a garbage disposal, then it's going to go, wash through the wastewater pipes into the treatment plant. But for the most part, most on-site options, they're going to stay where they are. When you drop off, and we have a couple different options, which we're going to go deeper into, but all of the drop-off options are coming to our compost facility, the Organics Diversion facility, or Green Compost, and then we'll make compost and other soil products out of that. Pickup services. So if you have a hauler that's coming curbside to pick your food waste up, it really depends on that hauler and what they're doing. And at the end of this, we will go through again. We have 7 haulers in our county that we're going to highlight, and it shows like what those 7 haulers, what happens to the food scraps through those 7 haulers. So if you don't know, give your hauler a call and say, hey man, where are my food scraps? What's happening to them? Because they may not all go to composting. Some of them might go to a depackager for anaerobic digestion, or they might go to farms to feed animals. And then lastly, that you can take it directly to a farm. So I will have an example of a great relationship between a farm and a school that I'm going to highlight in just a wee bit. But even on farms, they can go to animal feed, composting, or anaerobic digestion. I don't think there's any farms using anaerobic digestion in Chittenden County. I did not check with the ag agency, but I don't think so. Sorry if there is and you're on here, and I'm not trying to leave you out, but I know in Addison County there are several. So without further ado, we're going to dive into 2 of these. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the farm action, and I'm going to talk about the depackager, because I think those are the 2 things that are probably a little on the outskirts for some people attending today. I'm not going to get deep into the depackager because I'll be honest, I don't know a whole lot about it. And the research I've done, which actually was a lot, was just like, wow, there's a lot of different kinds of depackaging out there. So I'm just going to kind of touch base that this is currently an option in our county and something very new. So go. Oh no, what happened? Holy bananas. Oof. Go. Sorry. Technical difficulty. I'm not sure exactly what's happening here. Oh, there we go. All right, fantastic. All right, so depackaging systems. Basically, this is where you don't have to take things out of a pack. Not you, but it can stay in the packaging, and these machines will separate the food from the packaging. Kind of like squishing it out. Again, there are many different mechanisms depending on which system you go with. This system is thanks to AgRecycle. Let me borrow the picture, but this is just one of many different systems. And so you can see the loader is just scooping everything up, food, packaging, bags, you name it, popping it into the hopper there, and then it will squish the food out, and the packaging goes one direction and the food goes another direction. It gets mushed up even more into what's called a slurry. And then that slurry will eventually make it to an anaerobic digester, or that slurry can be composted as well. It just depends on the system and what your intentions are. Currently, we have one depackager in Chittenden County, Casella system. It's in Williston at the transfer station. It went online in March. And they're currently testing out, kind of how to process different materials, whether that's like beer or packaged food or food waste with compostables in it. And so what happens is basically they'll pick up they're one of our biggest haulers in our county. And so they have a lot to choose from. And so they'll pick it up from their customers. They'll bring it to the depack It'll go in, it'll make that slurry. They have storage silos on site, so they'll store that till the silos are full enough. They fill the tanker trucks, and then they go to various digesters. One of them being the Salisbury Digester that just went online not that long ago. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but so that's one of the places it goes. But I think they have a couple places that they haul to. And again, it just came online in March, so they're kind of testing out the process, but they definitely are one of our major haulers, and the majority of the food waste that was coming to ODF or to our compost facility is going to that DPAC. So I'm excited to see how that all works out. I'm excited to see it someday too.
Hey, Rhonda.
Yeah.
Hi there. Sorry to interrupt. We do have a question about DPAC, if you don't mind. If we can pop this in right now.
Okay.
All right. So the question from Abigail is depackaging used for food still in packaging that went bad, or any food scraps that happen to have packaging mixed in? Where do they get the scraps from? And I can address this if you like, or
Go ahead.
Or you are welcome to also, if you got this. Okay. So Abigail and others interested in this topic, it is a big topic, and there's lots of conversation happening about this right now. But the answer to your question is that depackaging systems can be used for food that is still in packaging that went bad, or like you see in the picture that Rhonda has, food scraps that were collected, let's say curbside or from residential customers that happen to have packaging mixed in some cases, stuff that shouldn't have been put in there in the first place, like plastic bags. So it can be used for either of those streams. And we have another question about garbage disposals and wastewater treatment plants, but I think we'll hold on to that till a little later.
Yep, I'm gonna touch on that in a hot second.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
All right, yep. So, using a DPAC is not perfect. It is machinery. Sometimes the packaging does get shredded up with the food scraps or the food waste. And then unfortunately that load will have to go to the landfill, because you can't send it to the digester, or you can't compost it. But, again, it depends on the DPAC technology that you use. And from, again, my research, there is a lot going on out there. It was pretty exciting, and I learned a lot while preparing for today. So thanks for that. One piece of exciting news too is that CSWD is in negotiations for a partnership with Vanguard to get a DPAC here at ODF. And I say here because I'm sitting in my office at ODF, so at the compost facility. But so yeah, and we feel like there is like enough packaged food waste in Vermont to accommodate more than one depackaging thing, and maybe even, more around. So that is exciting, and that will be coming. I don't have a whole lot of information on that except for that part. And I think Dan is on the call too. So if he has more information, or if there's more questions, maybe he can help out with that. But so yeah, this depackaging thing is pretty awesome. And it'll definitely help with food that has gone bad, and can keeping contamination at a minimum, and contamination being trash in general that comes in with food scraps. All right, so the other one that I wanted to touch on, the other place that food might go, is farms. And I did want to highlight this fantastic partnership that Shelburne Community School has with New Village Farm in Shelburne. They have had a partnership since 2013. It started with some parent volunteers that contacted New Village, and it's like, hey, how about we send some food scraps to the farm? And New Village was like, okay, well, let's check that out. And so it's been going strong ever since. New Village comes to the school and picks up covered containers daily. Before the pandemic, they were picking up about 100 pounds of compost a day. And post-pandemic, it's down to about 20 pounds a day of food scraps. They did go, the kids know, and I've worked in the school many times, the kids are well aware that food goes in one bin, and then if it's like compostable stuff has to go in another, because they do only accept the food scraps from the school. They can deal with compostables, but it just makes things a little more complicated. So just to make it easier on New Village, they just take the food scraps and then the kids sort it out accordingly at lunchtime. So this is like a benefit for everyone. So Shelburne Community School can cut back the costs on hauling or having their food scraps hauled to Green Mountain Compost. And a New Village Farm saves money on chicken feed. And I think, I don't know, this is not a picture of their chickens, but I imagine their chickens are pretty darn happy too. So that's a cool thing. And that might be something in your community you can look to. I'm sure there are other schools that have relationships with farms other than SCS, but it's the one that I know of. And get in touch with me if you are from a school that has a relationship with a farm, because I like to learn a little more about that myself. All right, so that's kind of a general overview of where the food goes once it is where the organics land after they leave your house or business or school. All right, so here are I'm sure this list is not definitive, but it is for today, on-site options that we could come up with. Now, these can be, again, you can put multiple systems in use, whether it is your business or a K-12 school or a college, or it is just at your house. I use several of these myself at my house, and several of these options. But we'll start with the garbage disposals, because that is like the least recommended way of managing your food scraps. I totally understand that it is convenient, and especially living in an apartment, and I have lived in apartments for pretty much my for a very long time, let's put it that way. And I understand the convenience to, shoving it down and not putting it in the trash, because keep in mind the Act 148 law is not, you have to compost your stuff, you have to keep food scraps out of the landfill. So this is a way of doing it, and it is a legal way of doing it. It just is really taxing on the wastewater treatment plants. And it really depends on your town, what systems your wastewater treatment plant has in place for dealing with like a lot of organics going down the drain. Also very tough, and again, I learned this on some research I was doing for this, but really tough on the infrastructure, the piping and all of that. And as you guys might be well aware, a lot of that infrastructure is pretty old to begin with. So kind of putting a little more stress on it is not ideal. So you can use it. It is an option. Just would recommend that maybe you can hopefully find maybe a different option, and check with your town to get a better understanding of how it affects, like how using a garbage disposal actually affects your wastewater treatment plant. Michelle, is that did that answer anything according to the garbage disposal question?
Yes, it did. Thanks very much. It was a question from Jesse in Addison County asking, they don't recommend it in Addison because a couple of their wastewater treatment plants aren't on board with it. So you answered it for Chittenden. Thanks very much. You
are welcome. All right, next on the list, and this goes in no other order, I just wanted to get garbage disposals out of the way, is food waste dehydrators. Now, these bad boys come in, they come in like countertop units all the way up to like industrial size units. Basically, you stick your food scraps in, it heats it up, and it dehydrates it, takes all the water out. So you're decreasing mass and you're decreasing the volume of your food waste. However, you still have like a pile of dried food waste that you cannot put in the trash because it is still food waste. It's just waterless. So you'll have to find something to do with it, whether it's composting it or feeding it to chickens or, whatever you decide to do with it. But it will reduce the weight, the mass of it, and it will reduce the volume. So some people go that route. Backyard composting is probably one of the most common on-site options. And that can come, we've I work the hotline for CSWD as well. So we get a lot of calls, and I sell a lot of soil savers to landlords as well. So backyard composting is an option also, not just for single family homes, but for multi-units, or even, you know, you could do like the community scale composting and do like your housing association or homeowners association or whatever that is called as well. But probably most common is the backyard, just regular straight up backyard composting. There's also, and then the community scale. So that can, like, again, be like your homeowners association, a neighborhood, maybe a community garden. This particular picture is from Callahan Community Garden out of Burlington. I know Montpelier has a pretty robust food scrap drop off for their residents at a community garden there. I think it's on Elm Street, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe you have a neighbor that has a bunch of chickens. Again, like that's the off-site, but it can also be, you know, on their site, and send it and do it that way, or as a community, I should say. Then there's digesting, the solar digesters. This is a green cone. Probably the most common one. I've seen a couple of different models out there. I've also seen people making their own solar digesters, which I, you know, as a scientist, I'm always like, put on that engineering hat and let's see what you got. So a digester will take care of all of your food scraps, but no paper and no garden trimmings or leaves or anything like that. But it basically dehydrates it, and then you add a little community, a dehydrated community of organisms that go in and eat it up, and basically all the nutrients are just washing away into the soil surrounding the digester. And that leads us to the last, and my favorite, is worm composting. And this is not for everyone. However, I have to say, I've gotten a bunch of schools this year on board with worm composting. And so it is, I think, pretty darn easy. They don't eat everything. So you'll have to find, and that's why I use alternative. I do use backyard composting as well to take care of the things my worms won't eat. But man, they eat a lot. They can eat half of their body weight in food a day. And they make really, really, really scrumptious compost, or so my garden has told me. And they have a lot of volunteer plants that come up, like 100, I think it was close to 100 tomato plants that I grew last year, just from worm compost. But if you guys have got any other on-site options that I have missed, please do throw that in the chat. This is not, again, probably not an endless list, but it definitely is a wide variety of ways to manage stuff on site. And again, you can combine this with off-site options as well. So I know that a lot of our community members here in Chittenden County will compost at home, say they're like fruits and veg and maybe some leftovers, but their meat and dairy and bones and oily stuff will come, either they'll drop it off or they'll have somebody pick that stuff up. So, you know, you can combine all of these options if you would like. So our offsite options are farms, curbside pickup services, and drop-off options. We kind of went over the farm. So if you've got a farm, and it doesn't have to be like a big old chicken farm or a diverse farm, it can be, you know, the neighbor 5 doors down that has, you know, 25 chickens or something. So I know that Burlington, one of the Burlington school district schools, they have a chicken farmer that comes in and picks up a couple of gallons of their food scraps every week to feed to his chickens right there in Burlington. So there's another one, even though he's not like a farmer, but you get the drift. All right, so we'll start with we got the pickup service and the drop it off yourself services. We are lucky here in Chittenden County because we do have multiple drop-off sites for folks living here. And so we've got all of our drop-off centers except food scraps. So that's 7 drop-off options for residents and businesses. We accept up to 30 gallons of food scraps a day, per day. At Williston, we don't charge for food scrap drop-off. And we got these fantastic little food scrap dumpsters here. And that's one of the reasons, because we haul that ourselves, and we just haul it right up the road, a little half mile or so up to the compost facility. At the rest of our facilities, the 6 other drop-off centers, we actually contract out at the tune of, I mean, upwards of like 80 grand a year to have our food scraps hauled here to compost. So we do charge $1 for every 5-gallon bucket. Not that that covers the $80,000+ we spend, but it is a little something, something. And then we have Green Mountain Compost, or the Organics Diversion facility, where larger loads come, 30 gallons or more. We charge $60 a ton for a tip fee. There's a $5 minimum, and that covers up to like 160 something pounds, 167, I think, pounds. We will be returning to accepting residential food scrap drop-off sometime in 2022. But because of the construction, we've been expanding here, plus with the possible DPAC going in, we wanted to kind of keep the customers out of harm's way of all of the construction that's going to be happening. So we will be bringing that back in 2022. And so that will open up yet another residential possibility there. Any questions about drop-off options out there?
Not seeing anything in the chat box right now.
Not diggity. I guess I'm just doing a darn good job.
You're killing it. Keep going,
all right,
girl.
So then pickup services are next, our other off-site option. This has blown up over the last year, which makes me super excited, because one, like, that means like a lot of people are actually keeping their food scraps out of the trash, and all of this business opportunity, which is really, really awesome. And I love to see the different companies that are coming online over the year. And I mean, I don't know what the number is for the last year, how many new food scrap haulers we have. I mean, we've had several that have been doing it for many years. And a lot of the larger haulers have been picking up from, hospitals and colleges, and especially the K-12 schools and restaurants and such for many years. But seeing all these like smaller and food scrap only haulers coming on is just it's a really exciting time, I have to say. So this is the list currently of all of our licensed food scrap haulers here in Chittenden County. And now I'm going to go into, so we had sent out a survey to all of the haulers, and 7 companies replied. So we just thought we'd give you guys a little highlight of the fun that is happening here in Chittenden County. All right, first up, and this is in no particular order, is 802 Compost Services. They've been in business for about 6 months. They got an adorable dog, I have to say. And so you can read through these, and this slide deck is going to be made available to you guys. So don't feel like you have to be like scribbling stuff down if that's the case. But you will get all of this information as well. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but certain companies do service certain towns, and 802 Compost services Colchester, and they do residential, commercial, or institutional. They do it in their pickup truck using 4-gallon square buckets. One of the cool, interesting facts with them is they will allow 2 free makeup pickups for their forgetful customers on Saturdays. So if their customers forget to put their bucket out on Wednesday, and they're like, oh no, we forgot, they don't have to wait till the next week. They can do a makeup pickup on a Saturday, but you only get 2, which is, that's pretty lenient, I have to say. So check those guys out. They've been in business for 6 months. Maybe I said that. Then we've got Roots Compost. They've been up and running for a year. They service towns both in Chittenden and Washington County. They do just residential. They do it with a commercial truck and a pickup truck. I have to say their box truck is pretty adorable. I like it. And cool fact, they make homemade dog biscuits for all of their customers that have dogs, which kind of makes me want to get a dog and then like sign up with them just to be like, I want to get dog biscuits for my dog. But That's pretty cool and very nice of them. Next on the list, we've got Casella. So these guys have been around for quite some time, hauling food scraps. They're one of the larger, one of the larger haulers in our county. They go county-wide. They do residential, commercial, and institutional. And as you can see with their disposal options offered, they do composting, they do animal feed, and they do packaging. So they're one of those companies that have a wide range of options for disposal of the food, the organics. Interesting fact is that they operate the area's only depack machine, which again, I am excited to check out hopefully sometime in the near future. Next on the list is Earth Girl Composting. They have been in business for 15 years. They do residential and commercial, and they service Washington County and some towns in Washington County and some towns in Chittenden County. Cool facts, and I didn't know this, and they do it all in a pickup truck, but these are some pretty cool facts. Earth Girl was the second curbside compost pickup business in the whole entire United States. And I'm always saying, like, go Vermont, because we seem to be leaders on everything. Not that I'm taking compliments for what Earth Girl did, but anyway. And she was the first in Vermont to offer curbside service. And shout out to Girl Power. It is woman owned. So been around for quite some time. Next on the list is Go Green Compost Vermont. They've been around for 4 months. They do residential pickup in a pickup truck and, cool fact, mother and son operations. So that's pretty cool. Next up is Upper Valley Compost. They've been around for a year and they service a couple of towns in Chittenden County as well as the town of Cambridge. Maybe it's the city of Cambridge, but I'm pretty sure it's the town of Cambridge. They do residential. They pick up in a trailer, and cool fact, they're the only one using a trailer for compost collection. Last but not least, coming in is Some Dude's Composting Company. And this name just cracks me up. Again, as being a hotline person and having to answer questions from our residents and, well, people in Chittenden County, I should say. And they were like, oh, well, who's doing a pickup? So I roll through the list, and then every time you get to and then Some Dude's Composting Company, silence. And I'm like, no, that's the actual name of the company. So it just cracks me up. They've been in business for about a year, service a bunch of towns here in our county, do residential pickup in a pickup truck. Cool fact is, that is the owner's face on the logo. So that's all we have for featuring of our haulers. And if you have any questions after today, feel free to shoot me an email or check out the social media thing on Recycle Rhonda's YouTube channel and CSWD's YouTube channel. There are webinars that we have pre-recorded or that we recorded from previous webinars about food scrap options. So you guys can check those out too. And there's other fun videos on there. And we have a compost video too, a tour of compost. If you missed that yesterday at 3 o'clock, there is a link and I can throw that in the chat right now. Are there any questions out there?
There are no additional questions in the chat right now. I think if anybody wants to ask your question, oh, there's Dan Goosen, our general manager of the Organics Diversion facility in person. So you have us all here right now ready to answer questions. Natalie asked, can you confirm Casella's cart size for weekly residential pickup? I don't have that, Rhonda. Did they tell you that? Or you can certainly call Casella and ask them that. Yep. So
yes, they do anywhere between 6-gallon residential carts up to compactors for industrial size. So, but I think it would depend. Yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely recommend it. And I popped the link to all the licensed haulers that operate in Chittenden County on our website in the chat. And that's where we have the most current information. And there's links to their websites as well as phone numbers. If you want to just run down the list and reach out to each of them, is certainly the best way to get their info. Abby asks, what's involved with getting a permit for hauling organics? There is, I think, some state permitting requirements. Is that correct, Dan? Or Ann Beeger, I don't know if she's still on the line. Josh Kelly is there. He added the link to the Department of Environmental Conservation hauler permit page, and then you can go to the cswd.net website. That will give you the information for what's needed in Chittenden County as well for getting that permit.
So you need it from both places. Both, if you're in Chittenden County, you need a CSWD license, and you also need one for being within Vermont.
Thank you, Dan. Yep. Annual renewal, yes, of the license. That is correct. Yep.
And just related to this, if I can just pop in and let anyone who might be interested in haulers or becoming a hauler or anything like that, we do have a haulers roundtable tomorrow at 1 p.m. as part of the summit program. It is really focused on organics haulers, but it's open to everybody. And we'll be hearing stories from 3 haulers. And then before the summit, I had solicited questions and issues that they wanted to discuss. And I know some of the permitting stuff is likely going to come up. So some folks from DEC will also be on hand to clarify, more detailed questions. So I just wanted to offer that up.
Thank you very much. Yes.
It would have been great to get Casella on to answer questions about their DPAC facility. I know that's because it's so new. There's a lot of questions about that. So if anybody's here from Casella, please jump on as well. Otherwise, I can try to answer a couple of questions about it, but it's not our facility, so I can only go so far on that.
I'm not seeing questions on that right now. Thank you very much, Rhonda Mace, a woman of many talents who also I should give a shout out to Rhonda for spearheading the compost facility tour video that she put the link into, which was awesome, and for running this program today and for her amazing school outreach. Josh Kelly has put into the chat, DEC solid waste hauler permit is $50 a year for a basic truck like a pickup. Bigger trucks like a 2-axle pickup or a packer would be more, and it's a $50 per year for that pickup truck example. Ours is less than that, the CSWD permit. And Jesse says, you mentioned your excitement about depackaging, but I've heard some concerns about microplastics associated with that process. Any thoughts? Dan, you want to address that?
There are certainly lots of concerns about microplastics. It's a hot topic, as was mentioned earlier, here in Vermont, looking at depackaging at large, and also wherever else it is in use. It's sort of a new technology in the United States, relatively new. There are a couple of manufacturers that have been around for decades, but they were pretty industry specific for a while. So in fact, companies like Green Mountain Coffee Roasters actually own one of these units, but they use it just for their production line. They don't, obviously aren't taking in food waste from other places. And so there's at least probably a dozen manufacturers who do different types of depackaging processes in their equipment, and they all operate slightly differently. Some of them are more of a smushing function, or pushing things through screens at different speeds. Others work more on a centrifuge type process where they will basically shred stuff up and then spin stuff. So heavier, more dense material will go one direction and others will go the other. And they operate on different moisture requirements. So some of them you need to add a lot of water in order to get the separation to happen. Others operate with less water requirement. There's the one here in Williston that is run by Casella. There's one in a big one in Maine, where a lot of food waste from the Northeast is hauled. That's the AgriCycle facility that was in Rhonda's picture. They both use a Scott's Turbo separator. It's one manufacturer, very popular in the Northeast and probably one of the two most popular brands in use in the United States. And they claim about a 99 point something percent purity standard on all the food waste that they put through, and it varies greatly both on what the material going into the depackager is, and also what screens or other settings are chosen on the individual machine at that given time, and who is operating and what their experience level is, and so forth. So there are a lot of variables, and a lot of them they generally claim at least 99% purity, but that 1% could be a lot. If it's plastic, depending on how that's measured, a 1% plastic contamination rate could be a lot of material. So there's a lot of concern around that. I know Casella is working with folks from UVM to try to quantify what their plastics contamination coming out of their machine is in the clean stream, and there's different standards in places in Europe where it's been in place more for a longer period of time, and Vermont's trying to figure out how to move forward with that as we look forward at options here. But it is, in our talks with Vanguard here in Chittenden County, they talked about citing a facility also in Williston, and in their situation, they would be using multiple screens after the material was slurried and then brought to the anaerobic digester on the farm. Before it was then land applied, they do an additional round of screening to separate any residual plastics that might still be in the mix. So hopefully that answered some of that.
Yeah, thanks. Probably there's a lot to be said and a lot of interest in the whole DPAC conversation, and there will be more conversation about it, I'm sure. Abby did make a comment. It would be interesting to know how they measure the plastic contamination. And I would just offer that in testimony provided to the legislature on the status of Act 148 and food scraps, Casella's environmental compliance manager noted that they are working with a graduate student from the University of Vermont on doing research around the slurries coming out of the DPAC and measuring microplastics and other materials and that sort of thing to try to really get a better handle on what types of materials produce different types of streams, as Dan just mentioned. So there's a lot of work being done in this area and a lot of recognition that there's more work to be done.
Hot diggity. Well, I mean, if you guys have continued questions, you have my email up there. You can always get in touch with, us, or Natasha can push you our direction.
Spirit people over to you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
But thanks so much, guys, for taking the sunny day today to join us. I appreciate it very much so.
And thank you, Natasha and Vors and Cav for giving us the opportunity to present the information to Chittenden County and folks from elsewhere as well. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Rhonda, Michelle, and Dan. It's great to have you all join us as part of the summit. And again, I'll just echo Rhonda's thanks for everybody taking some time out of their day to join us and hear about the different options for organics diversion in Chittenden County. I will note, just as a tag on to the link that Rhonda put in for the tour, there was Q&A in the live session that was yesterday, and I will be posting a link to that after the summit. So folks who want a little bit more deeper dive than just the video is great, by the way. I really enjoyed it. But in addition, you'll be able to listen to the Q&A that happened during that live session. Coming up this afternoon is still the zoning, U.S. Composting Council zoning session, the Compost Entrepreneurs Challenge. And then today's virtual tour also at 3 is the Rich Earth Institute. And then tomorrow's the last day, but we still have 3 things left tomorrow. Engaging a new generation of organics managers. It's going to be a great session starting us off at 10 a.m. The Haulers Roundtable that I already mentioned is from 1 to 2:30. And then tomorrow's virtual tour at 3 p.m. is the only thing on our program at 3 p.m. And that is Black Dirt Farm up in Stannard with Tom Gilbert. So we hope you all will continue joining us for this program. And at the very end of the week, we will be sending out an email with a link to an online evaluation form. And so if all participants could just take a couple minutes to fill that out, we always really appreciate any feedback you have. If you have something bigger or more, something you'd like to discuss, you can always reach out to me as well. So again, thanks to everybody, and I hope to see some of you at 3 p.m.
Hasta
Thanks,
luego.
everyone.
Enjoy the sunshine.